Well, today we're going to plant some beans. Now, before we get to that, you see this sprinkler system I put in. It runs the whole length here, and one thing I found that I did wrong in times past was not being able to water things that are planted in the ground, not being able to water them very, very well. So I've got this sprinkler system now, and I think it'll work a lot better this year. And I've also planted, I've got these trellises I've put up here. Let me get you a close-up here a little bit better on how this works. Now, as you can see right here, I've got a valve. Now this valve turns the water on and off to the sprinkler line down there. And over there I've got another valve that turns the water off and on to the sprinklers that go into those grow beds there. Now there's the pump over there. It's a pretty hefty pump, so that pumps everything, but I have to switch different valves and so forth to make it go where I want it to go. Now going on this side, as you can see, well, you can see how the peas, they're doing a lot better. What I intend to do is dig a trench along here, just a small one, and then just drop peas in it and then start watering them, and they should do quite well. Now the one thing to take note of here is it's the middle of March right now, and we live in an area where generally if you're going to plant stuff outside that is can be frozen, you know, things like tomatoes and things like that, you don't dare put them out until at least the middle of May, and probably better June, because sometimes we get frost in May. Certainly by June 1st, it's all over with. So here we are in the middle of March, and it's already time to plant in here beans and things like that, because it's a greenhouse. And that's one thing that a greenhouse will really do for you. It'll extend your seasons a lot. Now there are some greenhouse construction techniques that will allow you to grow all year long in a climate like I have. And I can kind of do that, but I found it takes too much heat to do that. Now there are ways you can sink it into the ground and things like that, and those do work, but you still generally can't grow things like beans and tomatoes unless you do heat it, because they like temperatures around 70 degrees or so Fahrenheit, otherwise they just don't do well. There are other things like peas that do a lot better if it's a little cooler, but 70 degrees is what you ought to hope for now, or what you ought to shoot for. Now here in the ground, for beans to germinate, see, peas will germinate. Let's start over here. Peas will germinate, probably if it's nearly freezing. They will germinate. I've done that before. I had a little place, and I planted peas at, believe it or not, the middle of January. We had a kind of a warm spell. It melted all the snow. So I went out there and I planted peas in the middle of January, and then I tried to put some, hot tents over them, little tunnels over them. And it actually did work. The peas did come up. However, I planted some peas later on that same year, and I think I planted them in April. Now the peas that I had planted in January, they came up and they grew, and the cold weather didn't bother them, but the cold weather slowed them down a lot. So at the end, when I went to harvest the peas that I planted in April, the ones that I planted in January were ready at the same time. So the cold weather doesn't kill the plants, and they still survive and they still grow. But if it's warmer, not too warm for peas, but if it's warmer, they grow much, much, much better. So anyway, I've got peas growing in here, and I'm going to go beans. Now the beans, what you got to do is they won't even germinate unless the soil is warm. Now I don't know exactly how warm, but if the soil is like 60 degrees or something like that, I guess, I think something like that, 70 degrees, then they will germinate readily. If it's much below that, they won't. The beans just need warm soil to germinate. That's just the way it is. Now, so in here with the sunshine and all that going on, and it's generally, well, you can see right here, it's just, it's about 75 degrees in here right now, and the sun's shining on the dirt. This soil is pretty warm now, even though outside it's we've got a storm coming in. So at the moment it's about 50 degrees outside, so it's kind of warm, very windy. But we still can expect many nights, 40 degrees and even 30 degrees for a while yet. But the peas will grow in here because it doesn't really get that cold in here at night, and during the daytime it gets nice and warm. So we're going to start planting here, and we'll see how they grow. Okay, getting into my seed collection here. It looks like what I've got, if I don't want to buy any new ones, I've got two choices here. There are Blue Lake, these are Kentucky Wonder pole beans. And I've got Blue Lake beans. Now, doing a little research, it looks like to me that the Blue Lake beans are sweeter and stringless, where these, if you let them go to maturity a little too much, they do have strings in them. So I'm going to go for the Blue Lake pole beans. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to dig a trench or a furrow right underneath this pipe here where I've got the sprinkler system, so that I can get plenty of water down there. So I've got my pointy garden hoe, and that's the way I'm going to do it. Make a little trench. Doesn't have to be very deep, maybe an inch, something like that, but really you don't need it any more than that. And we'll go along the whole length of this and do that. Let's start on the other side there. Okay, and here's my beans. Now I'm going to plant these, basically drop them in, and I'm going to put seeds maybe 5 or 6 inches apart, or maybe closer than that. You don't need to plant them that close, but I have a lot of seeds here, so I might as well go for it. Okay, and then I'm going to go all the way down the line like that. Okay, I've got them all planted, so now I'm just going to cover them up. Don't want any rocks over there. Just cover them up, throw a little dirt over them, and they should be ready to go. And we'll go down the rest of the line that way and get them all covered up. Well, okay, as you can see, we've got them all covered up now. Now the thing to do is, the ground is fairly moist because I have been watering it. But the thing to do right now is we'll water it down one time. So let's turn on the water here. All right, that ought to do it for now. Good and wet, that'll soak in, and these should come up. I think I was, if I read right, 5 days or so, these ought to start popping through the surface, so we'll see how it goes then. Well, it's the 7th of April today, and I just wanted to show you that these beans are sprouting and coming up. As you can see them, there's some. They're coming up. Now, they actually showed the first signs of sprouting about 3 or 4 days ago. As you can see, they're coming up. So we'll let them grow and see if we can get them to climb up through there and onto that trellis. And like I said before, about the time these peas are done, these beans ought to be coming on. So this will be interesting to see if this works out.